On the bench we have a realistic TRC-450. This is a...
That's going real well, I bet you, sir.
Turn that down there. Have a realistic TRC-450. It's a 40-channel AM and sideband radio. Customer sent this in to have this basically just redone so he can use it. He had noted lower sideband frequency was off and receive was low. What the hell else did he have on here other than just to recap it? And lower sideband has very tiny, high-pitched sound. Replace caps. Oh yeah, I had to replace the volume control on off because it was apparently this had been dropped at some point in time, and the actual shaft was bent. So when you turned the knob, it kind of wobbled around. So here's the original control. So that's been replaced. Now, if you ever have to change one of these in these, then I'll get into it. These are Uniden chassis, but these are very similar to Unidens, Cobras, to a lot of other radios. But there's one thing that's kind of, I don't want to say unique, because they are used in other radios, but the volume controls on these are a little bit different than most of the others. They may look exactly the same, pretty much, construction-wise, and the value, 10K pot. The difference is the shaft. If you ever have to replace one of these, this is not the same shaft length as like if this was in a Cobra. In a Cobra, they're about that much shorter. So in a Cobra, it's only, basically this piece right here isn't there. The knurled part goes almost the whole way down to where it goes into this collar here. So yeah, these have a shaft that's a little bit longer. The steel mounting plate that these actually mount to, it's just the way they had these face plates set up. It's just, it needed to be a little bit longer. That's one of the nice things, older radios. You can drop something like this. You try dropping a modern radio, and yeah, if it's enough to bend the shaft as much as that one was, you'd probably broken the faceplate. In this thing, it's mounted to a solid steel, bracket that runs the whole way along the back side of this plastic faceplate. The faceplate, that's all it is. It's just a piece of trim. Nothing mounts to it. Everything that's actually mounted is screwed into a solid piece of metal behind it. So that's why, another reason the old radios are are better. They're just built heavier. Now, there's nothing particularly special about these radios. The main reason I'm doing the video on this is because a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people, and I've had people tell me, oh, that's the exact same chassis, circuit board that's used in like a Cobra 140. Yes and no. If you're trying to say it's the exact same chassis, you are absolutely wrong. And the reason I say that is, it is a different circuit board. Let's get the camera. I'm going to try and tilt the radio up here, and probably going to need my flashlight. Where the hell is it hiding down in there? If you can see down in there, those wires are in the way. Story of my life. You can see that it says, you probably can't see the PC, but if you look down, not this one, not what's writing here, but the writing down in the hole there, you'll see, you probably can't see the PC, but you can see it says 622AB. This is a PC, don't mind about the AB, because there you'll also see AAs. That's just a different revision. As they made changes over the years to stuff, it's what Uniden would do. They'd just change the letter code at the end. It would still stay the same number. But this is a PC 622 board. The Cobra 140s use a PC 8. God, I'd have to pull out my my board manual. I always write down all the board numbers for reference. I think it's 833. I'm pretty sure it's 833 that's in the Cobra 140s. But yes, it is a completely different board number. Now, is it the same? Yeah, pretty much. But is it exactly the same? No. So, yeah, to look at it, yeah, it's pretty much the same. And as a matter of fact, you use the same Sam's manual, because Sam's did not print a service manual on this specific radio, the realistic TRC-450. They just tell you to use the service manual for the Cobra 140, 142 GTLs. So, if you look at the pictures, take a look at that, and the radio beneath it, you can see it's the same thing. Like I say, just minor variations. And Uniden did that because, like I said, they were a board manufacturer. I mean, they made radios too, but their main thing in life was, other than building radios, was building radios for other people. That was the big part of their business. So if it needed to be tweaked for certain controls or layout or something, hey, they were more than happy to do it because you were buying it, or in this case, Realistic was buying this chassis from them. So. But yep, nice radio. Like I say, replaced the one crystal, so frequency's back on now. Really didn't need anything else. Other than the VCO voltage, I've got to reseal the cores, and now the alignment's done. But somebody had the VCO voltage way off. It was off by like 1.5 volts. On these chassis, you should have 5 volts at the test point, which, grab a pointer. This resistor right here, it has a bare lead. On that resistor there, your VCO voltage should be 5 volts on channel 40, and it had like 3.5. So yeah, it was like 1.5 volts too low, so that's been adjusted. But other than that, really didn't need anything. It's never had any modifications, so clarifiers locked, no modulation limiters were clipped. Now there is no modulation adjustment in this radio. Just like there's no squelch adjustment either. There's a spot marked down here on the board where the squelch pot would normally be, but that's another thing. This radio, they didn't even do it. So there is no adjustment for the squelch level, but there is no modulation adjustment in these. They're set. It's basically at the factory. It's just a resistor is all they use. You could change, if it needed to be adjusted, fine-tuned, you could put a trimmer in there, or just put in a different value resistor. But this one's perfect. It's right at 100%, so there's no need to do anything. The ALC is adjustable. The ALC is right here. You can see it's at about, it's in between 1/4 and 1/2 rotation. So, like I say, other than that, it really didn't need anything. It's in fairly good condition. I did polish up the bezel on this a little bit because now it has more fingerprints all over it. Me handling it. But yeah, I mean, it's old and used. May not show up very well on the camera, but it actually does have a lot of little scratches in it. But overall, it's in nice condition. The knobs, they're a little bit pitted as well. They've been cleaned up, try and get a little bit of the crud off of there. And I think one big thing a lot of people mistake about knobs, I often tell people, you can polish it. And they're like, well, what do you use? Glass cleaner? I was like, no, that's cleaning. You can polish it. And they're like, yeah, but how do you polish plastic? I was like, it's chrome plated. Yeah, but they're like, it's going to rub off. No, it's real chrome, people. Now, I actually replaced one of these knobs. I'm not sure which one it is, because I cleaned those and polished them up as well. And one of them, I don't know if it was just bad chrome on it, but the instant I hit it with chrome polish, the chrome just started to vanish. Now I saved it, and this proves that it is chrome plated, because you would not copper plate. I don't know how well this will show up in the camera. I need to get the angle just right. Man, this is just never going to show up in the camera, is it? I don't know if you can see that copper. I actually, with the chrome polish, boop, I dropped the knob on the floor, and yeah, it's gone. Oh, there it is. Ay, ay, ay. Ah. God, I hate it when stuff tries to camp out underneath the bench. But basically on every ridge in between here, the chrome is gone. It's down to copper. So it's like I say, it's real copper. Oh, come on, camera. This knob, yeah, it's too smooth now. It just bounces out of my hand. I polished it and woo. But yeah, like I say, it's because how you chrome is now. If it was metal, it would have been nickel, and then and then copper, and then chrome plated on top. It's, you know, what they call triple chrome or triple plating. Plastic, what they do is they have an adhesion promoter that's sprayed on, basically just like spray painting. But you spray an adhesion promoter on there, then they copper plate it, which is what's underneath there, and then it's actual chrome. So if you ever get, and that's another reason why, if you ever see old radios that have been sitting around for a really, really long time, it looks like it has green speckles. That's corrosion of the copper. That means that there was a pit in the chrome, so the protection layer's been, you know, been breached, and what that green is actually the copper layer on the, you know, the next layer down is actually corroding. So, like I said, it is real copper. Actually, bam, right there, you can almost just see, make out how copper colored that is. You know, looking at it here, it's really, really copper colored. But in the camera, it's hard to tell tone differences in shiny metal. But yeah, so, you know, if you ever get one that's pitted up, just take some chrome polish. That knob, like I said, I don't know what the hell's up with that. That's the first piece of plastic, I mean, ever. And I mean, I polished a lot of knobs and bezels. I've never had one where I went to polish it and the chrome just basically fell off like this one did. So I don't know. That must have been just a bad plating job on that one or something. But I stuck another knob on it, so no biggie. But, so there you go. There's the realistic TRC-450. You don't see a lot of these. And when you do, actually, a lot of times they don't go for much. Which, I don't know why, other than people don't know about them. So, you know, if you ever see one of these, definitely do not hesitate to buy it. It's nothing more than a Uniden hiding inside, because that's who built pretty much all Uniden's radios for years. So, it's a really good sideband chassis. Like I say, it's basically the exact same as a Cobra 140, 142. It does have a different board, so it's not exactly the same. But for all intents and purposes, when it comes to performance and everything, the only differences are basically things that just make it a realistic radio. You know, in the grand scheme of things, performance-wise, receive and transmit, yeah, it's the same radio. So, there you go. Okay, one last quick thing on this realistic TRC-450 I forgot to mention. In the last video, it still had the original mic jack in it. It has been replaced and updated to a modern 4-pin Cobra Galaxy Ranger wired mic jack. Now, if you ever do one of these yourself, it's not easy. I guess if you used a hacksaw, it would be easier, but, you know, to do it the proper way, it's a bit of a pain in the ass. And the reason is, not only is it a 4-pin, not only is it a 5-pin DIN jack, but look, it has a circuit board mounted on the back. This is where your wires come in. The problem is this is sandwiched in between the U-bracket, or, you know, the actual structure of the radio. So this goes on the, get this little ground tab bent over, this comes in from the outside, and then once this is installed in the radio, this gets installed on this side. So to remove it, you have to desolder all of these pins, and that in itself is a bit of a chore, because you have a bundle of wire about that big around that runs right here. Because, you know, when the radio's in the upright position like this, all the components, you know, the component side's down there. This is the solder side of the board. So, you know, clip the wire ties off that hold that wire bundle up along the side of the chassis there, so you can get down in there. But yeah, I had to use a see if it, yeah, as a matter of fact, it's still in the desoldering iron. I had to use the extended tip on my desoldering iron to be able to get down in there, actually, to these pins to desolder them. But it's, like I say, it's a bit of a chore, you know. And one thing to note, I see this quite a bit. This is another reason I wanted to say this. I need to start mentioning this more. I see a lot of people, when they do stuff like this, they'll take a, whatever, it doesn't matter if they're switching from 4 to something else, or 5 to a 4, or a DIN plug to a 4-pin. Anytime you change a mic jack, you will usually, not all the time, but most most of the time, you're going to find capacitors and maybe some inductors mounted either to the back of the mic jack, to a circuit board like this. Make sure you reinstall those. They're there for a reason. In the case of this one, there's 1, 2, 3 ceramic capacitors. Okay, 2 of these go from ground to one goes from ground to the transmit line, one goes from ground to the receive line, and the other one goes from DC ground, the ground that these are using, to chassis ground, or the actual metal structure. And there's also a ferrite bead on here. Okay, this is actually in line with the audio line. The audio comes out here. So, it came across and went over to the audio pin on the mic jack. So, what you should do is just use normal ceramic capacitors. If I have any floating around here on the bench. So, just normal leaded ceramic capacitors are fine. But make sure you install those caps on the back of the mic jack, however they were wired on here. So, usually that's what it'll have. It'll have one from ground to transmit, one from ground to transmit, and from ground to receive. And there'll usually be one from the DC ground to chassis ground. What I do is I usually take three of the ceramic caps, twist the 3 legs together, shove that in the hole for the ground, and then 2 of those, the other ends, will go to the receive and transmit, and then the other one goes down to the actual chassis, because there's usually a structural mounting screw with some solder pads right around the mic jack. But like I say, those are decoupling caps, and all of you bleed off RF energy, because that's the biggest problem you have with microphone cords is RF energy leaching into them. You'll get weird squealing and feedback problems. That's what these little guys prevent. So when you go removing them, you can induce all kinds of weird-ass audio problems into your radio. That's another reason this little ferrite is on here, is to help prevent RF problems. So what I do here, now this ferrite bead, it's still on here. I didn't reuse it because I needed a larger one. But the audio wire in this was a gray that went up to this. What I did was I just took a larger ferrite little core and slid that over the wire before I put it back onto the new mic jack there. But just some words of caution. Like I say, if you ever do one of these in one of these radios, yeah, these 5-pin DIN plugs can be a pain in the butt. Just because the way they're mounted, you have to desolder everything off of it before you can pull it out. And it's a little bit tricky to get down in there because you've got all those wires. Even once you get the bundle pulled away, you can only pull those wires out so far and still get down in there. But just something to be aware of, if you're going to do one of these. So it's now together and working. So there you go.